So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time. Now, please do not forget to revise this lecture. Just watching it would be job half done, okay? So please do not forget to revise this lecture from the notes provided by us on our Telegram channel. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below this video. Please do not forget to revise this lecture. It is very important. Otherwise, you'll forget these current affairs. Alright, let's begin today's session. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. Okay, so let's begin today's discussion. So daily current affairs, 6th of August 2025, Wednesday, and here is the topics list. So in total, we'll be covering these 4 topics. Okay, number 1 on this list is electric vehicles in India report, because recently Niti Aayog published a report with respect to the scope for electric vehicles, the kind of opportunities India has with respect to electric vehicles in India. So it's a comprehensive report. That is why it has become important for us to discuss this. So we'll talk about this. Then, second news item would be related to flash floods in Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand. So you all must have heard this in the news that flash floods occurred and many people lost their lives because of these events, right? Now, what caused these flash floods? Okay, now the thing is, we won't focus on what flash floods are because we have covered the definition of flash floods in our previous current affairs lectures. But some people are saying that these flash floods were caused by cloudburst. Now, what is a cloudburst? We'll talk about that in today's lecture. Okay, so this would be the second topic. Third topic would be related to India-Philippines partnership, because as you know, you should know this, by the way, that the president of Philippines was in India and India signed many agreements. Plus, India upgraded its bilateral ties with Philippines to strategic partnership. Okay. Now, the thing is that while we'll be covering this news, we'll also talk about the geographical location of Philippines, because maps-based questions are asked in prelims. So we'll talk about Philippines, its geographical location, and we'll talk about the significance of this strategic partnership between India and Philippines. Clear? And in the end, we'll talk about President's rule in Manipur. Okay. Recently, Rajya Sabha has passed a resolution that extends President's rule in Manipur by 6 months. President's rule in Manipur was basically proclaimed in February. 6 months were over. 6 months, 6 months have passed. Now it had to be extended. So Parliament has extended it. Okay. So we'll talk about President's rule and what's the procedure, what are the constitutional provisions with respect to that. We'll talk about all these things. Clear? So these are the 4 topics that we shall zero in our attention on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number 1, and that is electric vehicles in India report. Now you see, recently Niti Aayog has published a report. The title of that report is Unlocking 200 Billion Market in Electric Vehicles in India report. Okay, Unlocking 200 billion market potential or opportunity, electric vehicles in India report. Now, what Niti Aayog is trying to say in this report is that yes, India is pushing for transitioning towards electric vehicles. From petrol and diesel based vehicles, we are transitioning towards electric vehicles. Now, everyone knows why we are doing this. We are doing this for environmental benefits, because transitioning towards electric vehicles would reduce air pollution in urban areas. It would also reduce India's carbon emissions, thereby reducing global warming, okay, or contributing towards India's fight against climate change. So everyone looks at electric vehicles from the perspective or from the lens of environment. But in this report, Niti Aayog has pointed out that we should look at this sector from the lens of economics also. Okay, it will be a big economic opportunity for India to invest in electric vehicles. Electric vehicles would give us a lot of economic dividends. Okay, we would stand to gain a lot of economic benefits out of electric vehicles. Okay, and Niti Aayog basically gave reasons behind this. Clear? Plus, Niti Aayog also said that there are 5 areas. Those 5 areas, if India works on those 5 areas, well, it will unlock India's EV potential, electric vehicle potential. Okay, so these 5 unlocks are also mentioned in this report, that if India does that, well, India works on these 5 things, it will basically unleash EV sector in India. Clear? So we'll talk about the economic benefits of electric vehicles, these 5 unlocking areas, significance of electric vehicles, and what are the challenges in front of the expansion of electric vehicle sector in India. Alright, so these are the areas we'll focus on as far as this report by Niti Aayog is concerned. Clear? So let's begin, okay? So electric vehicles in India report. First of all, this report has highlighted certain key facts about electric vehicles in India, okay? So what are the key features of this report? First of all, well, Niti Aayog has said that electric vehicles, well, expansion of electric mobility in India would not just give us economic, environmental benefits, it would also give us economic benefits. How? Well, EVs have tremendous market potential. India's EV market could generate 200 billion opportunity by 2035 in GDP, jobs, and many other areas. So India stands to gain $200 billion by 2035 from investments in this area. So it has a huge market potential. Okay. Then obviously, we'll save a lot of money also. We'll not only save carbon emissions, so this growth can avoid 1 gigaton of CO2 emissions, but currently we have to import a lot of crude oil. Why? Because crude oil is refined and petrol and diesel is produced for use in cars, in vehicles. But when we'll have electric vehicles, there would be less demand for crude oil in India. And most of India's demand for crude oil is met through imports, right? So if we are not demanding that much crude oil, we would not import that much crude oil. So our import bill would also, our import bill would be reduced, right? So we'll save around 3.7 lakh crore in oil imports. That's an economic benefit. Then, well, sales growth of electric vehicles. Well, more and more people are now buying electric vehicles, okay? Sales have increased. EV share in total vehicle sales rose from 0.5% in 2018 to 7.7% in 2024. So 7.7% of all vehicles sold in 2024 were electric vehicles. So this is improving. That means there is demand for electric vehicles among people. Clear? That's a good sign. Yes, there is one problem, and that is we do not have enough charging infrastructure, public charging stations. And that basically stops people from buying electric vehicles. There are so many petrol pumps, but not enough charging stations. Okay. India had 25,000 public EV chargers as of October 2024, with a projected need of 2.9 million charging stations by 2035. So we need to invest heavily in charging stations, otherwise people won't buy EVs, right? So this is one area we need to work on. Then, states have their own policies with respect to electric vehicles. So 29 states and UTs, we currently have 34 states and UTs, states plus UTs. 29 states and UTs have notified their EV policy. 4 are in the draft stage and 1 or 2 are left, which would come out with their EV policy soon. So every state has created its own EV policy. That's a good sign. And like I said, it will generate economic benefits. This sector can create 10 million, that is 1 crore direct and indirect jobs. Okay. Not only in manufacturing of EV, then servicing. These cars would require servicing, so that would create jobs, recycling and charging, all of these things, battery manufacturing, all of these things would create 1 crore jobs. So all in all, it doesn't, spending or investment in electric vehicles doesn't just make environmental sense, it makes economic sense as well. Now, before beginning with this topic, or at the start of this topic, I told you that Niti Aayog has also pointed out 5 areas in which, or if we work on those 5 areas, we would unlock the EV potential of India, right? So what are those 5 areas, 5 unlocks? First of all, we need a stable policy, long-term policy. Currently, EV policy is very short-term, and government also keeps on changing its mind every now and then. We need a stable policy architecture. stable government policy direction would allow industries in this area to grow. So we need this. Then people are ready to buy electric vehicles. Okay, but well, people should also be provided car loans for electric vehicles. Now in India, well, credit penetration in remote areas is not that high. So, well, we need to focus on low cost financing. Currently, car loans have higher interest rates. If people want to buy electric vehicles, we need to lower the interest rates for car loans so that more and more people adopt electric vehicles. Okay, so low cost financing is one such area because this would unleash demand for electric vehicles. Then third is we need to invest in the entire electric vehicle ecosystem. What do you mean by electric vehicle ecosystem? Well, electric vehicles are there, charging stations are there, electric vehicle servicing centers are there, spare part manufacturing factories are there. This entire ecosystem, if is put in place, then more and more people would buy electric vehicles. Otherwise, people would say, why should I buy electric vehicles if I can't find spare parts? If I can't find good service stations in my vicinity? People would stop buying electric vehicles. So you need an entire ecosystem. Then we have talked about this, public charging infrastructure is required. And government needs to incentivize people, financially incentivize people who are buying electric vehicles. This can be done through subsidies, tax breaks, very low interest loans. Okay, so incentivize adoption. These are the 5 unlock areas. Clear? Now, what are the challenges in front of the expansion of this sector? First of all, EVs are expensive. Okay, and the reason why EVs are expensive is because batteries are expensive. So we need to do something about it. Either provide low interest rate loans, subsidies, anything. Okay. Second is limited access to finance. Loans are not easily available when it comes to electric vehicle car loans. Then charging infrastructure is not available everywhere. In few centers only. We need to invest in that. Low research and development in recycling of the parts of electric vehicles. This is one area. And different states have different policies. Some of those policies are in contrast to each other. So there is policy fragmentation. We need a single unified policy, which is long term also. Okay. Now, if India capitalizes on electric vehicles, what advantages we would get out of it? Okay, we have discussed those advantages, but significance. So first, it will give a boost to our energy security because currently for energy, especially transportation energy, we are dependent on imports, right? But if electric vehicles are, their adoption increases, well, demand for crude oil imports would get reduced, so energy security. Then boost to green manufacturing. Green manufacturing is that manufacturing which not only would generate jobs, but it would also reduce carbon emissions. So win-win situation for India. It would create an innovation ecosystem in India. Okay, less pollution in urban areas. We have discussed this also in our shorts that we upload on YouTube, that more people in India are at the risk of developing, well, dementia because we are exposed to air pollution. 99% of Indians living in urban areas, they're exposed to high levels of air pollution, right? With electric vehicles, that is going to get reduced, right? And sustainable infrastructure. So that is there. Clear? So this is as far as electric vehicles, the entire sector is concerned as per Niti Aayog. That's all. Now let's quickly shift our focus to second news item, and that is flash floods in Uttarkashi district. Now, we have covered the topic of flash floods because in the previous current affairs lectures as well, because recently, a few weeks back, flash floods occurred in Himachal Pradesh. Then even before that, flash floods occurred in J&K, Western Ghats. So flash floods, their frequency has increased, their intensity has increased. Okay. Now, in that lecture, when we discussed flash floods, I talked about what are flash floods, what are the reasons behind flash floods. Okay, so we have discussed flash floods in its entirety. We won't focus on that in today's lecture. Okay, what we'll focus on is what was the reason behind flash floods in this particular district of Uttarakhand, that is Uttarkashi. Okay, so let's talk about this. So flash floods in Uttarkashi. Now, when we discussed the topic of flash floods, I told you that there are two major reasons behind the occurrence of flash floods. One is extreme rainfall. Okay, the other is topography. Okay, topography, the geographical features of the region. Okay, soil and all that. Now, it is believed that yes, well, in this district of Uttarakhand, there was rainfall, but we can't call it heavily or very extreme rainfall. There was rainfall and it was strong rainfall. Okay, but it was not extreme rainfall. The major reason for flash floods in Uttarkashi was topography, the physical features, the geographical features of that area. Okay, now, as far as the topography of Uttarkashi district is concerned, well, the thing is, as you can see, it lies in the mountainous region, Uttarkashi. Okay, and many major rivers of India like Ganga and Yamuna, their early stages pass through Uttarakhand, Gangotri, Yamunotri glaciers. Okay, so rivers are also flowing at very high speed. Plus, this entire region has very steep slope. Now, whenever there would be rainfall in areas like these, which has rugged topography, steep slopes, well, the risk of landslides increases. And because many rivers flow through this area, okay, so there is rugged topography, mountainous region, steep slopes, and many rivers are also flowing. Okay, and these rivers are pretty rapid, because you will study this in geography, that river in their earlier stages, when they emanate from glaciers, they're very fast because of the force of gravity. In the mountainous regions, rivers are very fast. So the rivers that are flowing through this Uttarkashi district are very fast. So there was rainfall. Okay. Now this rainfall, this heavy rainfall, led to landslides. Okay. These landslides led to the accumulation of a lot of debris, material in the rivers. Now, this made rivers, or this basically allowed the rivers to overflow. So, because a lot of material due to landslides was dropped in these fast moving rivers, well, they started overflowing, and that led to flash floods. Okay, so it was not just rainfall, it was the topography of the region. So, remember this. Okay, but nonetheless, rainfall was still heavy. It was not extreme, but it was heavy. Now, because the rainfall was heavy, many people suspected that, well, a cloudburst must have occurred in Uttarkashi district, which basically caused, or which basically triggered these flash floods. Okay, but experts have come out in the open now, and they have said that cloudburst did not occur in Uttarkashi. Okay, and you need to understand this. Okay, the reason why I included this news item in today's lecture was to give you the definition of cloudburst. Okay, so listen to me carefully. So as per Indian Meteorological Department, okay, cloudburst occurs, or cloudburst is that type of rainfall, okay, which is heavy, very heavy, extreme, and in very small areas. So in a concentrated piece of land, very heavy rainfall occurs, right? So very heavy rainfall in a on a concentrated basis, basically concentrates, a very heavy rainfall concentrated on small piece of land. Now, IMD has given a definition for that. IMD says that the rainfall, what do we mean by heavy rainfall for it to be called cloudburst? It should be more than 100 millimeters of rainfall in 1 hour. So if 100 millimeter water, 100 millimeters of rainfall drops in just 1 hour in a small area, that small area has to be 10 kilometer by 10 kilometer. Okay, so if the rainfall is more than 100 meter within 1 hour in this area, then we say that in this area cloudburst has occurred. Now, IMD says that was not the case in Uttarkashi. So the main culprit of flash floods in Uttarkashi was the topography, and yes, rainfall was there, but topography was the main culprit. Clear? But we discussed this in the previous lecture also. Flash floods, well, they have increased. Their frequency has increased, their intensity has increased. And that's because heavy rainfall in hilly areas has increased. Okay, so the reason for more flash floods and more cloud bursts, okay, in these hilly regions, in these hilly reaches, is the main reason why the intensity of flash floods or cloud bursts have increased is global warming. Okay, global warming increases the threat of flash floods or cloud burst. How? Because, well, we have discussed this. Every 1 degree Celsius rise in temperature, okay, increases the capacity of the air to hold more moisture. Okay, around 10% more moisture. So when the air holds more moisture, well, the clouds would also hold more moisture, and when the rainfall would occur, well, it would drop a lot of water. Okay, this leads to cloudburst, or if not cloudburst, a very heavy downpour. Make sense, right? So global warming is the biggest culprit why these disasters in hilly areas are increasing in frequency and intensity. Clear? Simple? All right. Now let's move forward to third news item, and that is India-Philippines strategic partnership. So basically, Philippines president was in India, and well, when he was in India, both Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Philippines president, well, they met, and this bilateral meeting yielded 9 agreements on which the two countries have signed on, right? Along with that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made an announcement that India and Philippines have upgraded their bilateral relationship to a strategic partnership. Now, India and Philippines are strategic partners. In fact, he used a line also, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He said that India and Philippines are friends by choice and partners by destiny. Okay, destiny has brought us together. Okay, these are the words he used. Nonetheless, the more important part is that we have decided to upgrade our bilateral relationship to strategic partnership. Now, why is Philippines significant for India? We'll come to that. But first, let's talk about Philippines, because maps, okay, geographical location based questions or MCQs are asked in your prelims examination. So first, let's talk about the geography of Philippines. Okay, so India-Philippines partnership, and here is Philippines on the map. Okay, now as you can see, well, basically Philippines is a group of islands. So it has around 7,100 islands. Okay, this is Philippines. It has 7,100 islands. Clear? These 7,100 islands are divided into 3 groups. Okay, we'll talk about what those groups are: the top group, the middle group, and the southernmost group. Okay, now because it is an island group, okay, therefore it does not share any land border with any country. So Philippines does not share any land border with any country. But yes, it is surrounded by some strategic seas. For example, on the eastern side, the sea in this area is known as Philippine Sea. Okay, this is South China Sea. So on the western side, it is South China Sea. And this southwestern, this sea is known as Celeb Sea. Okay, so it is surrounded by seas. Yes, it does not share any land border, but it definitely shares maritime border with many countries, as you can see: Indonesia, Malaysia, Taiwan, many other countries. Clear? So this is the geography of Philippines. So let's talk about Philippines. Okay, so Philippines, 7,100 islands. The top island is Luzon. The middle island group is known as Visayas, and Mindanao, the lower island group. So as you can see on this map, okay, there are 7,100 islands divided into 3 groups. First group, this area is Luzon. Okay, middle is Visayas, and last is Mindanao. Clear? But in total, there are 7,100 islands. The capital of Philippines is Manila, right? And the name of this country, Philippines, is actually this country is named after a Spanish king called Philip II. So he was a Spanish king. Okay, Spain first colonized this territory and kept it as a colony for 333 years. So when Spain colonized this Philippines, territory of Philippines in 16th century, well, this territory was named after him, King Philip II, Philippines. Okay. Then from 1898 to 1946, it was colonized by USA. That is why Philippines has a mixed colonial past. Spanish colonization, American colonization. Clear? Though Filipino and English are the official languages. Yes, Filipino is their local language and English because, well, they were colonized by Americans who speak English. So that is all you need to know as far as Philippines is concerned. Now, let's talk about why is Philippines significant for us? Why did we decide to upgrade our relationship to strategic partnership with Philippines? Okay, for that, look at this map. Okay, Philippines is close to China and lies in the Southeast Asia. This region in which Philippines lies, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, this entire region is known as Southeast Asia, ASEAN countries, right? Now, the most disputed region in this entire area is the South China Sea dispute. Okay, all countries have a dispute with respect to islands in this South China Sea, and all these countries are scared of China because China is asserting dominance in South China Sea. So Philippines considers China to be a non-friendly country. So in that regard, Philippines and India become natural partners, right? Makes sense? So because Philippines is involved in a territorial dispute with respect to South China Sea with China, and Philippines is basically afraid of hegemonic rise of China in this region. Well, Philippines was looking for partners to counterbalance China. And in India, it found a natural partner. Clear? There are other reasons as well. Okay, so reason number one. Why is Philippines important for India? Well, to counterbalance China. You all know that China is making allies in India's neighborhood. China is friendly with Pakistan, friendly with Bangladesh. China is trying to woo Nepal away from India, right? If China is doing this, why can't we do this to China in its neighborhood? So that is why Philippines is important. Plus, because Philippines is afraid of Chinese assertion, China's domination, well, Philippines is investing a lot of money in its defense and is looking for weapons. Philippines is quite impressed by our BrahMos missile. Okay, so for us, Philippines is important for our defense exports and defense ties in general. Plus, we can have economic partnership with Philippines, trade partnership with Philippines, people to people contact. Okay, these are also the advantages of having a good relationship with Philippines. But the two major legs on which this strategic partnership stands is China and defense. Okay, though many agreements have been signed, agreements with respect to cooperation in outer space has also been signed, but this is the main reason. Clear? All right. Now let's move forward to last news item of the day, and that is President's rule in Manipur. So why is this in news? Well, because recently Rajya Sabha has passed a resolution to extend President's rule in Manipur by 6 months. Okay, Lok Sabha had already passed such a resolution. Now it was the turn for Rajya Sabha to pass this resolution so that President's rule in Manipur could be extended by 6 months. Okay, now President's rule in Manipur was basically, the proclamation for that was announced in February. 6 months have passed. President's rule cannot be extended beyond 6 months if Parliament does not pass a resolution to that effect. Okay, that is why both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha passed this resolution to extend President's rule in Manipur. Now, to understand this news item in its totality, well, you need to understand what President's rule is, okay, and how it is proclaimed, what is the procedure behind this. All of this, well, it will be a refresher or it will be a revision for your polity, okay. So please pay close attention. You will get to revise polity also through this news item. Clear? So you need to know about President's rule, what is the procedure, what systems are there, okay. So let's talk about that without further delay. So President's rule in Manipur, okay. So remember this, that President's rule was basically established in Manipur in February, okay, and now it has been renewed for 6 more months. And this renewal can only be done by Parliament, both houses of Parliament, right? Now about President's rule, so let's talk about it. Okay, so Article 356 allows the President to establish President's rule in a state. Okay, now President's rule can be established in a state on 2 grounds. Ground number 1, if the constitutional machinery in that state breaks down. What do we mean by that? Well, the government is not being run in accordance with the provisions of the constitution or any other reason, okay. In case of Manipur, well, Manipur state government was not able to handle the law and order situation. Now, law and order constitutionally is the responsibility of the state. So if Manipur is not being able to provide its people with security, it is the responsibility of the central government to restore that. So President's rule was applied. Okay. The second ground is, well, central government gives directions to states and states have to follow those directions. Article 365 says that if state government refuses to follow these directions given by central government, well, President's rule can be applied. Okay. Only on these 2 grounds, President can proclaim state emergency or President's rule. Okay. Now for that, governor of the state has to present a report to the President that please, situation is not right in the state, apply President's rule. That's the whole idea. Now the thing is that as soon as President's rule is applied or as soon as President's rule is enforced in a particular state, the state machinery gets suspended, gets dismissed. So state government, chief minister and other council of ministers, they get suspended. Okay. State legislature, they either get suspended or dissolved. The house gets dissolved. So all the executive functions of a particular state are handled by the central government. Okay, prime minister and all. All the legislative functions, law-making powers are then handed over to Parliament. Now Parliament handles the law-making powers of this. So the entire administration of the state is handed over to center. Okay, and this is a temporary position. Till the time the situation in the state normalizes, center handles it. Clear? Now, the power of proclaiming President's rule in a state lies with President. And we all know that President is bound by the aid and advice of Council of Ministers, Prime Minister, so basically Prime Minister. Okay, but within 2 months, it has to be approved by both houses of Parliament. Okay, Parliament has to pass this proclamation. Okay, yes, you require simple majority in both houses, but you require a majority in both houses. Parliament has to pass, otherwise this proclamation would end after 2 months. Okay, but this approval by Parliament is also valid for 6 months only. It is only valid for 6 months. After 6 months, Parliament has to again extend it by passing resolution through simple majority in both houses. Okay, so Parliament can extend President's rule 6 months each time. So every time it has to pass a resolution, it gets extended by 6 months. Okay, and this can go on to a maximum of 3 years. So this extension can go on to the maximum of 3 years. Clear? 6 months every time. But there is a catch. There is basically a fact that you need to be aware of. Okay? After 1 year, if Parliament feels that it needs to extend this President's rule further beyond 1 year, it cannot do that. So Parliament can renew President's rule every 6 months, but not beyond 1 year. If it wants to renew President's rule beyond 1 year, then 2 conditions or either of the 2 conditions have to be satisfied. Either national emergency is imposed in India. So in India there is national emergency, then it can be done. Or Election Commission of India certifies that elections can't take place in the state, therefore you need to extend President's rule. Only then it can be extended beyond 1 year. Clear? And by the way, President can anytime revoke it when he thinks that situation has normalized. So this is all you need to know as far as President's rule is concerned, and you can find all this information in your notes as well as in your polity lectures as well, which are currently going on in our Gurukul course. Nonetheless, that's about it. With that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it would add more value if first you're consistent and regular with this lecture series and you revise it from the notes. That is very important. Please do not forget to revise. And I shall see you next time with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.